Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started. I am Hannah Riedel. I work in the non-point source program at DEQ.
I'm Anna Lay. I also work at the non-point source solution at the DEQ with Hannah.
And we are probably the two main people who will be responding to these harmful algal bloom reports all summer. So this webinar today, it should be fairly short. We're just gonna kind of do a quick overview of what harmful algal blooms are, but mainly we wanted to provide this information. I think maybe our audience are folks like local county health departments, maybe some regional FWP folks, maybe some MSU extension people, and then maybe some members of the public are here. You all might be either submitting reports of harmful algal blooms or coordinating with landowners to get us information. So we wanted to kind of walk through what happens after you submit those reports and what you can expect. So feel free to use the Q&A box on your Zoom to ask a question as we go, and we'll have time for a Q&A at the end of our spiel. Or you can also just hang tight and we'll give you the opportunity to come live and ask your question. But for now, I'll just hand it over to Anna.
And today's webinar is also recorded. So, if you know some folks that can't show up today, the link will be provided for use and you can help share that with others as well today. All right. So this is the website for harmful algal blooms. The best way to really access it is if you just type in hab.mt.gov, super simple. And it should take you to this Montana DPHHS website that DEQ and Montana DPHHS partner up on for harmful algal blooms. And hopefully for the summer, we can use this website as like an overview for all things harmful algal bloom information. But just to start off, a harmful algal bloom is pretty much a group or an overgrowth of algae that will produce toxins that will be harmful to the public through like drinking water or to livestock and pets. So that's pretty much what we're talking about today when we mention the word harmful algal blooms. So this page will have these drop-down lists right here for more information, if you're contacting with the public or for your own personal use, that you can really access, what are harmful algal blooms. There's this awesome video that some folks here at DEQ helped put together that Hannah's featured in to just like describe what a harmful algal bloom is. This drop-down list is more, frequently asked questions. So things like, what does a bloom look like? That can consist of a video too, if you rather just watch a video. Where HABs found, how you can prevent HAB-associated illnesses. And this one is for any public officials that may need more additional information that goes in depth with harmful algal blooms guidance and also some closure signs. So when we do work with locals and there needs to be cautionary signs or closure signs out there, this is what they may look like, and you can also access them by just clicking on them and printing them out as well. And then additional videos and resources just to give you and provide you more education information as well. So all of this could be found on that hab.mt.gov website, as well as over on the side panel. Over here, there are a few phone numbers that may be great to have with you on your personal information, just in case someone or a pet does come into contact with harmful algal blooms, and then the number and email to report as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this report and track a possible harmful algal bloom link. And so when you click on this, you should see this website for a reporting app where if folks in the general public and yourselves find yourself on, you can report a harmful algal bloom or a potential harmful algal bloom and that data will be recorded back at DEQ. So this is a one overall page. Again, the caution and closure guidance can be found here for your use. And then also if I scroll down here, this is the report that we'll be working on. So I'm going to go ahead and just click this open. And you don't need to have it open either. It's just better if you want to open it up in a larger view. And I'm just going to put in an example data just so you can see what happens when you do insert some information. So I'm going to go ahead and put my information, NLA, let's see, email. And the email is great just so, you know, if Hannah and I would need additional information, we can always have someone to contact and ask for further information regarding location or time and date. They're not required fields, it's just optional, but it does really help us to get that information when we do need it. So right now, I'm just going to feel comfortable giving Hannah my email address. Date observed, we're just going to do today. Description of bloom, we'll just do grass clippings about 5 meters across near bank. Could be short and simple, or just very descriptive. Have you seen a bloom on this lake before? Again, these aren't required, but they are just very helpful information. So, you know, if you're out there with people who do want to report an algal bloom, just helping them walk through some of these information would be incredibly helpful as well. So I'm just going to say no. Publicly accessible lake or river, yes. Yes. Name of lake or river. Can you give me a name, Hannah?
Nyland Reservoir. Nilan. That is a place where most years we get reports.
And then county.
That's in Lewis and Clark, I believe.
So the Lewis and Clark County, as you can see, has that red asterisk next to it, meaning that it is required, as well as the name of the lake or the river, just because we do want to narrow down the location if we do need to provide any sort of cautionary or closure signs. No for any human or pet illnesses. And then this one is required as well as please identify the location of the bloom. So you can either type in the address here, so we can always go to Nyland Reservoir, or if you don't feel comfortable sharing your particular location, especially if it's a private land or a landowner, just clicking in like the general vicinity or an estimate of where you may be could really just help narrow down as well. So this blue thing will pop up. Blue marker will pop up, and that would also just take your location as well as the latitude and longitude. And photos, these aren't required, but if you can really push folks to take photos, especially if they're going to go back home where they have internet access to upload those photos, that can really help Hannah and I in the office to really identify whether or not it is a harmful algal bloom. So it could be as easy as, you know, clicking on this camera button and then allowing your camera to take the photo in live time, or even just selecting an image and uploading it when you're at home on your desktop or through your phone as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and just submit this right now. And after that was submitted, I believe you go back to this main page of the reporting app after we had closed that out, and down below there should be this interactive map as well, where the data point should pop up after we had just submit our data point. And this was the location. The location of the data point that was just submitted. So live time, this will just pop up as gray with the legends right here, meaning not evaluated. So now this is the time where Hannah will be the main person to go in and just determine whether or not it needs a closure or cautionary advisory, or if it's a nuisance green algae. But this will just pop up just for people's understanding and information before they head out. And then the cool thing is that you have access to 2020 data points as well throughout Montana. 2021, and 2022 is gearing up for the next half season. So this is just a great interactive tool for folks to use in the future, as well as like recent observations that will pop up as we start generating more data points, and the public will help us coordinate and report more harmful algal blooms around the state of Montana. And so then after.
So once you submit that report, Anna, myself, and a few others at DEQ and DPHHS, we will get an email notification letting us know that we've received a report. And so next I'm going to kind of walk you through our process. So, and all of this information is in that guidance document that Anna shared earlier. So this is what I'm going to use as my reference. This is page 11, so we're just jumping right in, and I'll walk you through the decision flow chart. So as Anna was walking you through the survey to submit your report, she mentioned that photos are really helpful, and that is because photos are really the key piece of information that we need to get a lot of the future monitoring rolling. With a photo, we can usually identify, yes, that is a harmful algal bloom, or no, it's nuisance green algae, or like I've gotten photos of plant roots and all kinds of things. So that's a good first pass. If with a photo we can confirm it's a harmful algal bloom, we're always going to recommend posting a caution sign that Anna had shared earlier. And that's because even if we obviously at this point we don't know if it truly is harmful. We don't know if toxins are present in the water column, but we want that caution sign up because even if we did water quality testing every single day and found non-detects for toxins, that doesn't mean that at some point in the evening toxins couldn't be produced. So that's a really key thing to keep in mind about these harmful algal blooms is you can see the algae organism clearly with your eye, but the toxins themselves are invisible and they're not always co-occurring together. And it's pretty unpredictable when those toxins might occur. So that's why caution signs are a pretty routine step. Anna also pointed out in the survey how some of those questions about human or animal illness, or like if it's a recreational access, those questions are also helpful because depending on some of those risk factors, we might kind of upgrade or speed up our response. So that's why you see this question here. If there was pretty severe human illness or animal death, or if it's a public water supply, we're going to want to ramp up our response in those situations. We've never jumped straight to a closure without water quality testing, but I think that's definitely an option that local jurisdictions can consider. I guess I'll back up and say that we really rely on local folks helping us respond to these reports. We get anywhere from 40 to 60 reports throughout the summer, and we sitting here in Helena don't have the capacity to go all around the state and investigate all of those reports. So the level of response also really depends on capacity of locals to help us out. And the person I'm going to reach out to really depends on where that bloom is located. If it's like a fishing access site or a state park, I'm going to contact FWP. Obviously, if it's like a BLM beach, I'll reach out to BLM. If it's, maybe a residential area around a lake or reservoir, I would contact the county. It really depends on the scenario, which you'll see a lot of a lot of these steps just depend on the scenario. So yeah. So if there is local capacity and interest in conducting further monitoring, we can provide some test strips as kind of a next step. The test strips are testing for the actual toxins. There's a few different ways we can get those results to you. We can either mail out a box of test strips and have the local person helping us respond run the tests themselves, or we can have a water sample shipped to us. And we might even do that back here near the first step if we're not totally sure if it is a harmful algal bloom, because that gives us the opportunity to look at the organism under a microscope and do some more robust identification. But just to kind of jump down here to near the bottom of the guidance document, there are examples of the instructions that would come with those test strips. And I just want to show you them really quickly so you can see truly how easy these things are. These instructions are a little bit outdated, but I think they get to the point of how simple it is. We'll send you 2 types of tests, one for a toxin called microcystin, one for a toxin called anatoxin. Those are our 2 most common toxins in Montana. Each test takes about a half hour to get a result. So if you're testing for both toxins, you might expect about an hour of time until you have a result. But there's about a dozen steps. You collect a small sample of water. There's like steps to transfer it into a reagent solution. You have to pay attention to the amount of time you're shaking things and letting it rest. But ultimately, you are using what's very similar to your average, COVID test that we've all been taking, where you're looking for both a control line and that test line. So this result key will be included in the instructions. It has guidance for using how dark the test line shows up to identify the concentration of toxin in your water sample. I really don't recommend that approach. I view these tests more as a presence or absence, because I've seen the control line really vary in how dark it is, so I don't totally trust that test line. But basically, the test line shows up, that indicates you have that specific toxin at or above about our recreational guideline. So I'll jump back up and show you where you can find those. It's actually page 9. We have this table that corresponds to our recommended actions and concentrations where we would recommend those actions. So those test strips are roughly set to bump you up to this tier 2. And you can tell, they're both cautionary tiers. And really the main difference if you detect toxins is that you would want to ramp up your public outreach. So we can help with writing a press release, or if it's a residential area, putting out some mailers to help notify people. And then this closure tier, you really need lab testing to get up into closure, unless of course, like I said earlier, there's just a really crazy case of human or animal illness. That could be an option to jump straight to closure, but you still want to be careful with that, just because I've heard of dogs dying from a lot of things besides just HABs. So I'll go back to our flow chart. So now here, say we've detected cyanotoxins with those test strips. You could consider working with a private lab. Previous summers, the state HAB program, we've had free analytical lab resources. We've kind of lost that in recent years and we're working on getting it back. Hopefully that's something we can offer later this summer, but at the moment, any analytical lab testing, kind of has to come out of that local jurisdiction's pocket. So a few cases where I'd probably really recommend commercial lab testing is if this is a drinking water source, if there's been a really bad human illness, if it's super popular recreation area. Otherwise, I think kind of the information content versus the cost for these lab tests is a pretty low trade-off. From the time you take the water sample to the time a lab gets results back to you is going to be a couple days at least. And like I said, conditions can just change so rapidly, even over the course of a couple hours. So think of lab testing as really, using it to support a decision to issue a water closure or something like that. Lab testing can cost about $300 to $500 a sample, whereas these test strips, obviously, as they're available, the HAB program will provide them for free, but they do come at a cost to us of about $100 per test. So not cheap, but a lot cheaper than lab testing. And the major benefit is you get some sort of result right away. I think the last thing I wanted to mention is if you're really digging into this guidance document, you'll see there's a bit of a simpler decision flow chart for waters accessed privately. This most often has come up if it's like a private stockwater pond, and it's a lot more simple because our main recommendation is just to get those livestock to a different water source. Again, just because if it is a harmful algal bloom organism, they could produce toxins at any time. We're happy to help with test strip testing in those cases as well. But yeah, unfortunately, just to be better safe than sorry, it's going to be best to move livestock off. Did I miss anything? Okay. Yeah, so I guess we can open it up for questions now. And I'll say before you all run off, we did have a question to ask of you all as well. So I'm going to
see. Can I share my
oh yeah. Yes.
You do have one comment in the chat.
Yeah, just reading that. So the question is, if possible, should a microscopic view picture be uploaded? If you have access to a scope and you want to include that with your report, that would be awesome. That's not something we've ever gotten before, but yeah, that would be a huge help.
So over on the education outreach side, I've been working with Hannah closely on forming some more kind of ways where public officials and just the public can really help on reporting. Because I think Hannah mentioned that we get on average 40 to 60 reports a year. So it's not like harmful algal blooms will stop if people stop reporting them, but we do really hope that people become more educated and acknowledge harmful algal blooms and learn how to identify them. So this will be going out hopefully soon here. So these are what I call the HAB safety cards. They're going to be a 3x5 card that contains a QR code that once, for folks who do have technological capabilities and know how to use a QR code, they can just scan and actually take them immediately to the harmful algal blooms reporting app. And if not, there is the hab.mt.gov website here, as well as some phone numbers, so you can have a better idea of who to contact to really report the harmful algal blooms. But This is pretty much a one-stop shop to learn how to like briefly identify what a harmful algal bloom looks like, report as soon as possible when you do have internet access. And then on the back side of it will contain like illnesses and symptoms to look out for, any information that are pertinent and that you need immediately to really get the help that you need, and then also for your animals as well. So we're hoping that this gets printed out soon and then distributed statewide. So if you and your office or anyone else you know would love a few copies, so you can help hand them out as well, or even for your own personal use, contact Hannah and I, and we can definitely ship you out some once they get printed. But we are hoping that they are, distributed where people will typically go for recreation or sporting goods, and even for like education outreach events, but hoping that this is an easier access for folks to help report harmful algal blooms.